You're watching Soba FM.
All right, sleep expert answers questions from Twitter. Now let's learn how to sleep well, because that is the biggest problem in my life right now, bar none.
It's 5 a.m. I can't sleep. I'm eating summer sausage. What is time? What are circadian rhythms? Well, I don't know why you're eating summer sausage at 5 a.m. What are circadian rhythms?
Summer
I can answer
sausage?
that. Circadian rhythm is the
Not a winter
drive
sausage,
in your
I'll tell you that.
body
Hey-o.
that entrains all of its functions to the
Wait, he's
24-hour
talking. He's
light
talking.
cycle.
Oh my gosh. Wait, he just started like, fuck, my sushi's falling apart. Whoa, he just started like going. I thought he was gonna like warm up. You know who I really like? Jacob Collier.
Summer sausage at 5 a.m. What are circadian rhythms? I can answer that. Circadian rhythm is the drive in your body that entrains all of its functions to the 24-hour light cycle. So there's a part of your brain
so
called
like
the
it syncs up to the sun?
suprachiasmatic that's the master pacemaker for the circadian rhythm. And what it does is it cues off of the light-dark cycle, so sunrise and
strawberry
sunset,
syrup? What
to
is
get
this?
your brain and actually the rest of your body ready to rest at night and ready to act during the day. At RGWill_ asks, why do we take naps and wake up more tired? Oh, that's a good question. Because
I feel this a lot for like when I haven't slept. And like a lot, like let's say if I spent like 3 days getting like 3 hours of sleep, right? 9 hours in 3 days. Not good at all. But one time I do sleep, I sleep for like 12 hours. And then when I wake up, I'm still super fucking tired. But I have trouble going back to sleep. So I'll sleep for like 12 hours. And then I'll feel like I'm off 4 or something. Hope he addresses that.
there's good napping and there's bad napping. When you wake up after a nap and you feel like you just got hit by a truck, it's because what has happened is you started to build what's called sleep inertia. So once you start sleeping, after you get past a certain point, your brain gets into the mode that thinks, oh, we're doing this for the next 8 hours. And if you interrupt it after it's gotten past that point, it's sort of a rude awakening. And that's why you feel super groggy after a long nap. That's why when you nap, you should actually nap either a very short nap, maybe 20 or 30 minutes, or 90 minutes. So setting an alarm for a 90-minute nap. A 90-minute nap is enough time to go through an entire sleep cycle.
I do that, but sometimes
through shallow sleep,
my body just ignores the alarms. Does he have a tip on that, like how to wake up? Because I'll put like 4 or 5 alarms, up to like 10 alarms. Sometimes I have to do 20, and then I would ignore all of them. Like I would just sleep through them, and then I'm like, yo, where'd my alarms go? But they went. They would have gone. So, any tips on that?
Sleep to deep sleep up to REM, but only once. Not long enough for you to build a lot of sleep inertia, but enough time for you to actually get some of the benefits of sleeping.
I thought it said period.
Says, everybody talking about their weird COVID dreams, and I'm over here like, LOL, what is REM sleep? These are actually
League of Legends
EEG caps that measure what's going on inside your brain.
I'm abandoning the chopsticks. This is who I am. I'm a finger food.
What stages of sleep
I'm a finger food Freddy.
So rapid eye movement sleep is the phase of sleep connected with dreams. It has a couple of weird features to it. So in one of the things is if we record the electrical activity happening in your brain, it actually looks a lot like an awake brain. In fact, one of the only ways that we can tell that you're in REM sleep and not awake is one of these electrodes here actually connects to the muscles on your face. And so we can actually detect the tension or the absence of tension in your face muscles. And that's how we know you're in REM sleep, not just
my face do be tense.
So during REM sleep, what's happening is your brain is working
especially when I'm
consolidate the memories that you form through the course of the day, helping to harden those memories into your long-term memory. Things that are powerful, things that are fearful, things that are scary, things that create anxiety, all of those things are the substance of our dreams. That's part of the way that you encode dreams is with fear and pain and emotion. So it's probably no wonder that we're all having the same weird
That's pretty deep.
dream. At Rusty Covey asks, how will your brain get rid of waste? It isn't sent back into the body to be processed by the organs. How does your sleep play a role in it? This is a really interesting question.
Does he mean shitting in his sleep? What is he talking about?
It's actually the subject that my lab studies. So
yo, I have to shit now. That's crazy how the brain works.
From the rest of the body.
I thought about shitting and now I have to shit.
So the brain sits in a pool of water called cerebrospinal fluid, and that water helps to cushion the brain from blows that happen, and actually
sit in a pool of
the brain, which has
sleep.
kind of the consistency of room temperature.
And then it just evaporates when you wake up.
To not slouch under its own weight.
Wait, you sit in you sit in a pool of piss while you sleep. And then by the time you wake up, the piss is evaporated. And then, that's why like when you put your hand in warm water, when you're asleep, you piss yourself. Because that's telling the brain like, oh, we're fully asleep. Piss time.
During the daytime, the spaces between the brain cells, which are like the pores of this sponge, are actually pretty small and pretty narrow. So as a result, the water that's outside the brain sort of sits on the outside. But when you go to sleep, the situation completely changes. And the spaces between the brain cells open up, allowing the water that's on the outside of the brain to act.
Fucked up. Old.
During the daytime, the spaces between the brain cells, which are like the pores of this sponge, are actually pretty small and pretty narrow. So as a result, the water that's outside the brain sort of sits on the outside.
You're outside the club, you can't even get in.
But when you go to sleep, the situation completely changes. And the spaces between the brain cells open up, allowing the water that's on the outside of the brain to actually wash into and through the spaces between the brain cells, collecting up the waste that's accumulated through the course of the waking day. And so then this waste-laden fluid, like ammonia that's produced, washes out of the brain.
Like piss.
Brain, out into the fluid around the brain, and then those lymphatic vessels surrounding the brain collect it up and eventually dump it back into the blood. It's like brainwashing, but without being in an occult. At KB Rabham 21 asks,
I don't get it, but I also wasn't listening. Fair.
Have you ever wondered what your brain actually looks like when you sleep? Like, I wonder if my neurons are really just
never once thought that.
Beating the snot out of each other.
Must be a STEM kid.
Are the real reason I'm losing brain cells. I don't think dreams are the reason you're losing brain cells. You can actually see your brain when it's sleeping. You can see it by MRI. Sometimes you can see it during neurosurgical procedures. The thing about the brain that's really striking is the way that it pulsates. So the brain is just this big pulsating mass of tissue and blood. So you see it pulsating with the heart rate, and you see it pulsating and swelling. It
looks like my
sushi.
Ew.
And there's actually these even low frequency oscillations that happen as blood vessels in the brain dilate and contract. Those pulsations are actually part of the process driving
I feel like I just bit my spinal cord.
Waste into and out of the brain. At FX Mish asks, does anyone that can lucid dream have any tips on how to do it? So lucid dreaming, think the movie Inception, is being aware of the fact that you're dreaming when you are, so that you can control what's happening around you. It's a little fringy.
I want to make a banger.
A little bit of research on the subject.
I want to make a lucid dreams
that you can use transcranial electrical stimulation. So stimulating your brain with.
Imagine he called lucid dreams transcranial electricity or electric. What was it? You
can use transcranial electrical stimulation. So
transcranial electrical stimulation is a kind of a hard name. Lucid Dreams Part 2?
Stimulating your brain with electricity at certain frequencies can increase the likelihood that a person who normally can't.
It's like lucid dreams, but all the lyrics are like scientific. So like instead of shadows in your room, it explains what a shadow is.
Lucid dream actually can be able to. There's also some approaches in sleeping itself that seems to increase people's ability to lucid dream.
I'm gonna say strawberry sushi, kind of dog shit. I love the ingenuity and the bravery and artistic expression, but it tastes kind of mid. Just wanted to put that out there for any I don't know, sushi. What's the word? I don't know. Sushi culinaires. Trying to think of like culinary, but like as a person, it's like a noun. I mean Any sushi makers, we'll just say that.
Set an alarm for 5
sushi constructors, sushi creators,
and then wake up. Right after you wake up, you think to yourself, I'm going to be dreaming. I want to wake up during my dream. Repeat that to yourself again and again and again as you go back to sleep. Your chances of being able to know that you're in a
I can barely go to sleep. Like I'm not aiming this high.
Actually increase between 100% to 1,000%. So it may be either through
like if you're able to go to sleep at that point, stop complaining. Like bro, you already are like able to get like sleep and rest. Like now you want like a harem in your dreams, bro. You're asking for too much. Stop it.
Or maybe through some cognitive tricks, you can actually increase.
Bro, why don't you like lucid dream a bag? Why don't you get a bag? Lucid dream a bag.
Chances of being able to lucid dream. Caramel Cookie asks,
fucking lucid live, dude.
Sleepwalking a real thing? Yes, sleepwalking is a real thing. So sleepwalking is more common in kids and in adolescents.
But is grip walking a real thing? Yes, sleepwalking is more common in kids and
since it tends to disappear as people move through adolescence into adulthood. The interesting thing about sleepwalking is that your brain is asleep and yet you can accomplish very complicated tasks. So when you're sleeping, your brain is supposed to be a little bit disconnected from your awareness, and it's supposed to be disconnected from how your body moves. Sometimes those connections, they can get opened or they can get closed at the wrong time. So you see things like sleep talking or sleep moaning. You see people who have something called REM sleep behavior disorder, which is where you actually act out the things that are happening in your dreams. Sometimes you
yeah, he's playing God,
even violently, sometimes injuring your bed partner. So there's a bunch of different types of
unconscious domestic abuse is crazy. Like, there's just such a disdain for the other person. Your brain's like, fuck it, we have to. For us.
Things, some of them interesting, some of them a little scary, that can happen when the processes governing sleep.
What the fuck are the point of sesame seeds?
Misaligned.
They're like on everything, but I don't know.
Asks, how many types of sleep do we have? You actually see that your brain is doing a couple of distinct things through the course of the night.
When I sleep in the morning, when I sleep in the night.
REM sleep, or rapid eye movement sleep. And that's the part of sleep that's most associated with dreaming. There's also non-REM sleep. Non-REM sleep sort of breaks into three different categories. There's N1, N2, and N3. N1 is the shallowest type of sleep. So that's maybe the first 10 minutes after you first fall asleep. And that's the time when you're sort of most awake. It's easy to sort of pop back up awake. N2 sleep is sort of the mid-layer on your way to deep sleep. During that phase, you're a little deeper in and your body starts to actually do some funny things. So that's when sometimes people will twitch and move a little bit.
That's why they say like to take like 20 to 30 minute naps, because that's when you're in M1. So it's easier to pop out when you're awake. And if you do it too long, you end up getting an M2 or M3, which your brain's like really trying to relax and get into it, but then you wake it out and it's like a rude awakening and you're groggy. I'm learning.
During N2 sleep. The deepest sleep is called N3 sleep, or slow wave.
I just forgot about like the names.
If we record what's happening in your brain is actually oscillating between states where
my brain's making a song,
off, and it's doing those oscillations about one every second. Those are called slow oscillations. That slow wave sleep is the deepest part.
Sorry, chat. The sushi was falling apart. I had to dive in.
Do dreaming. One of those cycles is about 90 minutes or so. During the course of the night, you go through several of those cycles, maybe 3 or 5 of them. Later on in the night, there's less slow wave sleep and more REM, which is one of the reasons why maybe we remember the dreams that we're having late in the night better. At Moniager asks, what is sleep apnea? I would have asked Google, but I prefer a more simple answer. Sleep apnea is a condition where you stop breathing several times through the course of the night. So it can actually be a physical obstruction to your airway that keeps you from sleeping. Regardless of the cause, the result's
so scary.
Your brain is
that probably fuck up your dream too.
So the neurons in your brain.
Oh my gosh, I've had dreams where I've drowned, and then I've woken up like by the time I fully drowned. I wonder if that's sleep apnea. Maybe because like I stopped breathing, so then like in my dream it like replicates that. Scary.
Trillions and trillions.
Or same thing, like when I was 10 or something, or like whenever it's acceptable, but or socially appropriate. But I remember once I was having a dream. I don't remember what was going on, but it was like as the dream went, it felt like not like a tsunami hit, like a tsunami hit, or like a huge wave hit. And then after the wave hit, I woke up. I had pissed myself, which goes to my theory though that when you're asleep, you pissed yourself. Like when you're in deep sleep, you piss yourself, because it's like it's so deep of a sleep that you forget to actively hold your piss, and then it's like, and we piss every night, but it just evaporates by the time we wake up. So true. Because that's how your brain gets the rest it needs. It leaves the waste. The waste leaves, and then you feel better when you wake up because you took a piss. And that's why you want to take a piss when you wake up, because it's like you were just in piss. You were like in water. You were in water, so you have to pee. Just like how when people put their hands in warm water when they're asleep, they have to piss. It's a fucking full circle.
Of times
and
all of that activity takes a huge amount of oxygen and glucose and energy to keep it going. And every time you stop breathing during the night, you're depriving your brain for just a little while of the energy that it needs and of the oxygen that it needs. And it isn't until your brain is screaming for more oxygen that you actually gasp yourself awake. And as you add that up over the course of many nights, over weeks and months and years, the added stress that puts on not just your brain, but actually your whole body can increase your risk of cardiovascular disease like heart attacks and strokes. Diabetes. The good news is that sleep apnea, much of it is actually pretty treatable with an approach called CPAP, which is basically just a mask that goes over your face, and it uses a little pump to sort of force air in.
I know people who do that.
And the forcing of that air in and out of your lungs helps to keep your airway
I thought it was just
and keep you from stopping.
Yeah, that's actually what I thought it was. I thought it was to keep your airway opening, but not because your lungs would stop. I thought it was like for congestion and shit, like almost like when you put like Vaseline on your chest and it makes you breathe lighter. That's what I was thinking of.
The bad news is many more of us actually have sleep apnea.
Almost spilled soy sauce everywhere.
What does it look like? How do I know if I have sleep apnea? Well, common symptoms include heavy snoring, waking up gasping. If that sounds like you, it might be worth getting checked out with your physician.
I don't think I've ever woken up gasping.
Clara asks, what causes insomnia? Because I literally cannot go to sleep at a decent time, no matter how tired I am.
Finally, my question. Dahlia? Good question. This is the question. This is the question I actively deal with. This is the help I needed. Let's go. No eating. Me drink a little water. And if you're watching on Twitch, if you're on Twitch, probably applies to you. So let's tap in. Wait, a little more. Oh my gosh, I drank water while breathing in. I felt like multiple elements. I felt the oxygen and like hydrogen reach me at the same time. It was crazy. All right. Focus. Let's focus. What causes insomnia? Because I literally cannot go to sleep at a decent time no matter how tired I am. All right.
Upside down smiley, upside down smiley, upside down smiley.
You don't gotta read that.
Well, insomnia is pretty common. So it's not being able to either go to sleep or it's not being able to stay asleep once you are asleep. There are genetic causes of insomnia. Sleep apnea can cause insomnia. But frequently, it's the stress in our lives that can cause either acute insomnia, which is insomnia that just happens every so often, or chronic insomnia that happens all the time. So things that are important for sleep hygiene include going to sleep at the same time every day and waking up at the same time every day so that your body can entrain to a certain rhythm that can become predictable.
I go to sleep at different hours all the time.
For an hour before you go to bed. It's sleeping in a cool, dark room where that isn't also your office so that you can sort of focus in on the process of either having sex or going to sleep, which is really the only two things you should be doing in your bedroom. At Mash Solelo
fuck reading. Bitches who be reading? Ew. Yeah. So I learned just go to sleep at the same time, but if I can't fall asleep, then I can't do that. Now it's kind of like just do it, forehead. Like if I control when I could sleep, then that means I can control if I sleep or not. But I don't know. I guess I'll just try harder. I don't know. Try hard. Yeah, no, I'll probably do less screens. Take heavy fucking melatonin or like sleeping pills. And then just hard force like every night and hard force like sleep at the same time for like a few nights. And hopefully my body will like grow accustomed to it and would be able to replicate that sleep cycle for nights and nights to come. That is the plan. Just formulated it right now. Pretty simple. Fingers crossed.
What causes sleep paralysis?
Dude, I have friends who have sleep paralysis. It seems so scary. Move though.
Twice last night.
I'm kidding.
Scream emoji. That sounds like kind of a rough night. Sleep paralysis is when you're laying in bed, you're sort of coming out of sleep. You're getting cucked by your brain. It's when you're going into sleep. You're aware of your environment around you. You perceive what's happening, but you can't move the rest of your body. You're sort of paralyzed. And sometimes it can be accompanied by visual or auditory hallucinations or feelings of fear or terror or even feelings of suffocation. So it can be completely terrifying. Your body has a couple of disconnect switches
that it throws
so that all the activity happening in your brain while you're dreaming or during during your REM sleep doesn't cause you to act out your actions in the world around you. In sleep paralysis,
and then when that doesn't happen, you sleepwalk, sleep moan, and sleep fight.
Connect switches seem to get a little jumbled up, so that the switch that disconnects you from awareness of your environment sort of gets opened, so you become aware even while the switch disconnecting you from your body is still closed.
So it's the opposite of sleepwalking.
In people who are having sleep paralysis episodes, we actually seen that they still seem to be in REM sleep. So even though while you're aware of what's...
I guess I was going to say, how do they study that? I guess they get people with like chronic sleep paralysis where they're like, yeah, I get that shit like every night. Just to keep them in for a little bit.
Around you, your brain is still dreaming and your body still thinks you're asleep. It's just that you're stuck feeling awake. At Yatu Sabes Who asks, how do sleeping pills work? It depends a little bit on the sleeping pills that you're talking about. So let's start with the simpler ones. So a lot of people take melatonin to help them sleep. Melatonin is actually a naturally occurring molecule in your body that is part of how the body induces drowsiness.
Molecule?
It's actually a part of the circadian sleep
molecule
to help sort of prime the brain to get ready to sleep. Other commonly used sleep medications include drugs called sedative hypnotics like Ambien, which is a commonly used one, and also benzodiazepines, which are sort of anti-anxiety medications that can be used sometimes to help
I'm off the benzos.
Those drugs are very powerful drugs. They're available only by prescription. They have the potential for forming addiction and for habit forming, so they need to be used under the supervision of a physician. They work by targeting a neurotransmitter system in the brain, which dampens down.
I wonder how addiction works.
And to reduce arousal in the brain to help.
They gotta get
the sleep medication.
They gotta get one of these videos with an addict and like a professional addict, or like an addict professional, like someone who knows like the study of how addictions work. It's like someone who studies that. That'd be a cool video to see. So like they would mention something about addiction, or like how to like fighting it, or how it starts, or whatever, right? Like they ask you a question about it, and then the addict gives their experience firsthand, and is like, oh, this is what it's like for me, blah blah blah. You know, I started smoking like socially, but then after I got tired of like bumming cigs, I would bum it like every so often. So then after I was like, I'll buy it so I don't have to bum anymore, and then I'll occasionally have one, and then next thing you know, like I'm smoking a pack a day or something. You know what I mean? So it's like, it'd be cool if they have one of those, and then like someone tell their story, and then like the professional would be like, oh, so that feeling happens here, blah blah blah, social smoking, blah 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 blah, blah 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 blah, and like how that transition works or something. That'd be a cool video. I'd watch. Look at that, free content idea. Wired, take me up on that.
Produce the same type of natural cycling of sleep that your brain wants. So if you suffer from an insomnia, or if you have other sleep issues, other approaches like improving your sleep habits or even cognitive behavioral therapy can be actually more helpful in helping your brain to sleep naturally than trying to accomplish that with a drug. At Talia Galasco asks, is it really true that you can never catch up on sleep? If yes, I'm actually so fucked. Well, you kind of are. The sleep that you lose
Me too.
is sort of
also
gone forever.
fucked. We are fucked.
Many of the benefits of that sleep, whether that's memory consolidation or whether that's the rejuvenation that happens in the brain.
I feel like I've been sleeping worse this past year, and I feel like I'm getting dumber because of it. Like I feel like I'm forgetting words a lot. Because I used to have a very like, I don't know, eclectic diction. You know, I had a sesquipedalian wealth of words. I'm just trying to pull them out, but as I grew, I stopped using the words that I used to use. I used to say words like incredulous and prodigious and like, I don't know, like a very, very fancy academic terms, and I stopped using them, and I started sleeping less and less, and then now it's tough to pull them out. Like I always have that moment of like, oh, what's that fucking word I'm thinking of? It's on the tip of my tongue and I can't get it out, and it's such a shitty feeling. So now I'm like trying to relearn my words. But I don't know, like I don't remember them, so it's like tough to relearn them. But I think the key in that is just sleeping better. But then it becomes easier for me to recall those words at said juncture, whatever.
You sort of missed the boat. But there is something that builds up the longer your sleep and the less sleep that you get that's called sleep debt. And what sleep debt is the drive to sleep.
Oh, is this what I was saying? That happens if I sleep like 3 hours every day for a few days, And when I finally get a good sleep, I sleep for like 12. That's probably what it is. It's like me paying off my sleep debt.
More that builds through the course of the day, and it builds with sleep restriction. And so when you go to sleep, that sleep debt is relieved and sort of paid off. So there is a sense in which you can.
Oh, okay. Because yeah, a lot of times I'd be like, I would sleep for like very few hours, and then I would put like timers so I could sleep for like 7-8 hours. And then after I'm like, yo, why the fuck do I keep it like missing these alarms? Holy shit. But it's like, it just makes sense. I'm paying off my sleep debt. So true.
Catch up on sleep. An interesting study that was measuring waste clearance out of the brain showed that if a person was kept up all night, the slowing of brain clearance that happens in a person who stays up all night, actually it took 7 days for it to catch up. So even the second day.
Oh, so I'm never catching up. So maybe that's why I'm like forgetting words more frequently. Just because I'm never catching up on sleep, like ever. Because I didn't think it'd take that long. So I'm like in a continuous state of catch up. That's crazy.
Day after the sleep deprivation, it hadn't even caught up. So you don't necessarily catch up on lost sleep within a day or two. It may take much longer. At Furlingbird asks, how long does coffee affect your sleep system? The answer is that it's longer than most people think. So the active ingredient in coffee is caffeine, which targets a receptor in the brain that helps to turn off neurons. And so by blocking that receptor, it turns on neurons. That's how coffee has its main effect on you being awake. Now, the half-life of coffee in the blood is between 4 and 6 hours, which means it takes the better part of half a day for it to clear out of your body. So if you want to not...
So does that mean it's like placebo when people be like, don't talk to me until I have my coffee, or like they drink a little bit of coffee and then they act peppier? Because I've seen that a lot. Like in high school, it'd be like everybody comes, like every girl would come with like Starbucks. Like first period, they'd be kind of like out of it. They finish their cup, and then like, I don't know, a third period or something. Like next class, they're like fucking up and at 'em. Or it could also just be that like it's just pure fucking sugar, and maybe like a sugar rush, and then they crash out later in the day. That's also true. But I feel like everyone crashes out towards the end of the day, just because it's like. Your brain's like numb, especially with school, because it's like things being hurtled at your brain 24/7 or 8/5, I guess. But
not have caffeine influencing your sleep when you go to bed, you probably need to be stopping drinking caffeinated coffee or other drinks like Monster or these other energy drinks, probably around 2 or 3 in the afternoon. One of the
currently 10:09 p.m. Just drank one of these. See the caffeine. We have 0 calories, pog. 0 grams of fat, 95 milligrams sodium, 0 grams carbohydrates, 0 sugars, 0 protein. Okay, then what did I drink? What? Oh. Vitamin C, 120%. Vitamins B6, 100%. Vitamin B12, 170%. So I just got a lot of vitamins. So this is probably healthy. It's probably just healthy. Okay. Not a significant source of calories from fat, saturated fat, trans fat, cholesterol, dietary fiber, vitamin A, calcium, and iron. Percent daily values are based on a 2,000 calorie diet. Where's the caffeine, though? Carbonated water, taurine, citric acid, sodium citrate, ascorbic acid, sodium benzenate. I'm off the benzos. Inositol, caffeine. Okay, so there's caffeine in it, and a bunch of other stuff, but caffeine is in it. So I did drink some sort of caffeine. Oh wait, and each serving taurine 100 milligrams, inositol 100 milligrams, caffeine from all sources 80 milligrams. So 80 milligrams of caffeine in this. Not recommended to use by children, pregnant women, or people sensitive to caffeine or with a medical condition. So I had 80 grams. That's not that bad. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. I'll be all right. Look. That's like a half real yawn. Like it started off kind of fake, but then it kind of got real, but then kind of fake. Yeah, I can outthink it. I can placebo it.
The thing is that caffeine.
I'm tired. I'll take melatonin and be like, oh, I'm so tired, and then I'll just tired.
Is it sort of keeps your
I'll keep this in mind though. Sleep
aroused. It keeps your brain awake.
Aroused.
Maybe not all the way awake. So you might be skimming through.
Is that why? What's the fucking? I don't know if there's a term for it. I don't know, the post-nut sleepies? Is that why that happens? Your brain's no longer aroused?
Shallow parts of the shallow phases of sleep and not getting into those really deep phases of sleep that are necessary.
Got the coffee boner. I mean,
Lindsay Chat asks,
coffee boners?
Would love to get your tips on how to handle jet lag. What do you find effective? One approach is ahead of your trip, if you can do this, if your schedule allows you, you can start moving your sleep-wake cycle back an hour a day, so that by the time you leave, you're within an hour or two of your target time zone. So if you're going to Europe and it's a 6-hour difference, 6 days ahead, start moving your time to go to sleep ahead 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour, so that by the time you leave, you're going to bed at 6 p.m. But the good news is, by the time you get into Europe, jet lag will be smaller. At that point,
oh, that's cool. Wait, so you can actually just affect it by hours? Oh, that might be helpful for me. Instead of, because what I do is, like, if I go to sleep at like an ungodly hour, and then I try to go to sleep at like regular hours, it just doesn't work. I just have trouble doing that. But maybe I need to do hour back. So like, if I go to sleep at like, I don't know, noon, then I go to sleep at, you know, or go to sleep at 10 o'clock in the morning, then I go to sleep 9 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, 7 o'clock in the morning, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah, and just work backwards. I see. I go to sleep at literally all hours during the day. It just depends on like how far behind I am on sleep, or how many days in a row where I was sleep deprived, where it just like crashes. Like sometimes I go to sleep at like 5 o'clock at night, wake up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I'm just fucked. Or be like, go to sleep at like sometimes I'll go to sleep at like, I don't know, like midnight, not that bad, but then I'd wake up at 4 in the morning and then just can't go back to sleep.
Pablo, how do you track your sleep? Of course, most of us don't have EEG systems in your house unless you're some kind of weirdo. So most of us use an approach called actigraphy to measure our sleep. And so that's like your Apple Watch or a Fitbit. And what that does is it's measuring your movement and inferring from your motion. It's good at detecting when you're in bed, when you're asleep. It's not as good as detecting what kind of sleep you're in. So when your Apple Watch tells you or your Fitbit tells you, well, I had this much deep sleep, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. But in terms of knowing how much sleep you're getting, which is probably the more important thing, it's actually pretty good for that. Vicky84 asks, ran on 4 hours of sleep, going to sleep to wake up in 2 hours. Are there negative effects of lack of sleep? Was that a dancing bear? It probably wasn't a dancing bear. That was probably the visual hallucinations from you not sleeping enough. The human brain needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep for adults. Kids need more. Teenagers, they seem to need a lot more. If you don't get enough sleep, if you go
I've actually heard that like this, it's not like it's false, but I've heard there's been studies that are saying that like you actually don't really need 8. You can get away with like 6 or so, but it's I forgot the reason why. And it wasn't like an article I read, it was like a tweet mentioning the article. I don't remember it. And that's probably because of my lack of sleep. You know what? Let me not. But I like remembering that type of stuff. Just so for when I don't get enough sleep, I have like copium where it's like, oh, it's actually not that bad for me. Like, oh, I'll be alright. It's all mental, you know? And then I'll try to like placebo myself into feeling better.
Without sleep. We can actually measure deficits in your memory, in your attention, in your processing.
It's not a calorie deficit, I don't care.
And in your decision making. So your lack of sleep, you know that it affects how you feel today and tomorrow. But there's emerging data that suggests that long-term lack of sleep or long-term poor sleep may actually be setting the stage for chronic diseases like diabetes or heart disease or even cancers. Some pretty recent data suggests that actually poor sleep, especially in midlife,
hard to go to sleep.
The stage for risk for developing dementia.
It's like a negative flywheel.
70s and 80s. So how you treat your brain today may be influencing the mind that you get to have in 20 or 30 years.
Fuck. My mind is fucked.
If dreams are your brain trying to sort out memories and information while you sleep,
water though?
Or work through general data.
Hydrate the brain so I can piss in my sleep.
Why is it creating places I totally forget when I wake up? But in my dreams, it's like I have my own separate memory. So all of us have sort of these uncanny dreams that are weird mishmatches of beluga whales, you know, Disneyland vacations, and our mother-in-law. So what's going on there? One of the things that the brain might be doing is it's actually using our memories, putting them together.
That's crazy. That's like they commoditized your dreams. You're getting ads in your head. You're like, Disney Plus. That is scary, actually, of like how big a role I don't know, brands have taken into our life and like capital. That's kind of scary, which that makes sense though. I mean, if that's what you're surrounded by all day, getting, I don't know, marketed at.
Generate new insight.
But like life is marketing if you think about it. Like talking to people is kind of like marketing yourself, low key. You want to be funny, you're trying to like make that your brand or whatever, and you're trying to increase your perceived value as a person as well as like a brand does for their product. Yo, I'm getting kind of deep. That's crazy off of like very little sleep. It must be the 100 grams of taurine I just drank.
And then maybe it's that sort of novel recombination process is where human creativity and maybe even human inspiration comes from. In terms of why you don't
lack of sleep makes me more creative, because I do feel more creative when I'm like lacking sleep.
And that maybe it's that sort of novel recombination process is where human creativity and maybe even human inspiration comes from. Combination things, you know, might be insights. Is it's actually using our memories. That sort of novel recombination process is where human creativity and maybe even human.
So the way we have dreams is like the way we come up with ideas.
Why you don't remember it?
I guess it's like dreaming on the spot, sort of deal.
The way that it does
like realistic
maintenance during the night. So while it's doing its defragmentation, the screen's off, the keys aren't lit. But it's because
the keys. I just hit a key.
Something that's for the computer. It's not for you, the user. It's not for the outside world. At Anamnesis80 says, you know what bugs me? Why do we need to sleep? I mean, I know the biology behind it, but why? What's the purpose of sleep?
So you don't.
Well, first.
So capitalism doesn't fuck you into working 24 hours a day? The boss man can't stay up. Who's to say I'm working?
That you probably don't know the biology behind sleep if you're asking this question. But you shouldn't feel bad, because
get owned and pwned?
We really don't understand completely why it is that we sleep. We have some hints. So
but it feels good, so we like it.
Though, we see that some interesting things are happening. So the brain is made up of trillions of connections.
And we do it all the time, so why fight it?
Those connections are your
Why not get good at it?
Your
if we
thoughts,
can't, if we can't get out of it, get into it.
Memories, and you're making new connections constantly. But some of those connections are important. The connections like, how do I get away from a saber-toothed tiger? But some of those are less important, like the 19th cat video that you watched on YouTube last night. And so if your brain kept all the connections every single day, it would become this clogged up rat's nest of information and connections that you'd never be able to
just a lot of porn.
So during sleep, connections that are important, ones that are connected to
brain could be like tired brain,
that are powerful, those actually firm up. And the ones that are less important, the weak ones,
you know, that's what you meant by cat video.
There's actually cells in your brain that eat the extra connections while you're asleep. So if you don't sleep, those processes of firming up and of pruning don't get to happen, which is why we think it has such an important role in memory.
Firming.
All right, so those are all the questions for today. There are some really awesome ones out there. The big takeaway is your brain needs sleep to be healthy, and it wants to sleep. Our job as sleepers is to try to get out of the way, try to set the stage for it to do the thing that it wants to do. Thank you for watching Sleep Support.
Oh, thank you. And if you're watching this, thank you.